Hi, my name is Ellie Rouse, and my talk today is about taking what I learnt on the Developing Self course and how I applied it to teaching in nursery, primary school, and a little bit beyond that. It is a talk for Alexander Technique teachers who are interested in this work, and also for teachers who are interested in the Alexander Technique. I trained with Stephen Cooper, who taught children, and also Ron Colyer. And both of those people, including Mike and Chie Cross, gave me the inspiration to want to work with children, only I didn't know how to do that. So luckily, Sue and Judith ran the Developing Self course, which I did in 2016, 2017, and found absolutely invaluable. I had been approaching Leslie, who ran my son's nursery school, whilst I was training, and I kept talking to her about this thing, the Alexander Technique, and actually how important and valuable I thought it could be for little ones. And she would say to me, Ellie, what is it? And I said, I can't quite explain it yet, but when I can, please can I come in and teach it? And so luckily I did explain it to her, and she said, yes, please, can you come in and teach some of the children? The children that we chose to teach were the children getting ready to go to primary school. So we looked at teaching them in the summer term, really with an idea to give them an extra tool to use once they'd got into big school, and to hopefully make that transition a bit easier for some of them. So we decided to teach the children in six groups of 10 for a maximum of 20 to 30 minutes. So I taught some children in the morning and some in the afternoon. And before we officially began, I went in and read the children the stories of Terry Tall and Digby Down. Terry Tall and Digby Down are two characters created by Sue Merry, who go on this fantastic adventure. And together they discover the magical words that can help you to do things a bit more easily. Once the children had learnt this and become really familiar with the characters, it gave us a common language to talk about and to play a lot of games around all of those themes. You can use many children's games have an opportunity in them to start to really talk about the principles of the technique. Stopping, seeing, breathing, standing tall and soft, remembering your magic floaty balloon head and your runny custard shoulders, experiencing the difference between being scrunched and tight and tall and soft. So the children really had something to work with. It was great. So if you are stuck, you have an opportunity to teach them and you're not quite sure where to start with Terry and Digby. They're your guys. So each group came and they had their own names. The groups had names. So we had things like the helicopters, the bubbles, the kangaroos, the kites, the skyscrapers. So all with this idea about coming up. We also grew beans. So we had a bean for each group. So you could see that the roots are coming down to generate the energy to come up. And this was great because the children would come in and want to know what the bean was up to. And then interestingly, on this side, you see that? This bean put all his energy into coming down and did not leave enough energy to come up. So he loved that. So simple, so clear. Yes, other lovely learning curves. So to teach children with their shoes and socks on or their shoes and socks off. So I went with shoes and socks off. And I don't think children wear or take their shoes and socks off unless they're at home. So you could dedicate an entire session to what's it like to have your shoes and socks off with your bare feet. What is that like? But then, of course, once they've taken them off, they've got to get them back on. So all the children are lined up beautifully, so I could put my hands on them to say thank you very much for coming, and to remember their magic floaty balloon head and their runny custard shoulders. And they've gone and they haven't got their shoes and socks on. So call them all back in. So they're sitting down, putting their shoes and socks on, and one little girl put her sock on her hand and said, "Terry Tool, Digby Doll, Terry Tool, Digby Doll." So for the next couple of sessions, we all made sock puppets with, googly eyes and funny hair and silly faces, and it was great, and the children loved it. Something else which is completely invaluable. Before I just go on to that, we also made skeletons. So they were slightly bigger than this, so we could put the pins in the different joints and really discover where we were moving from, looking at the skeleton and then making our own skeletons. And then the children also made really big skeletons, which they put all around the nursery and coloured in and wrote things on them. And so that was lots of fun. Last but not least, lazy eights and labyrinths. I just can't get over how fabulous these are, and what a great teaching tool they are. The children, there's so much in them, and it's a great place for the children to sit and for you to put your hands on and to remind them about their sitting bones and where their feet are, and to come up from their work rather than be pulled in and scrunched down into their work. Little ones at this age really want to show you what they can do, and they've got lovely big crayons, so you can do great big lazy eights. They can be really big lazy eights, they can be small lazy eights. It's a really fabulously useful thing to do. And then in the middle of your lazy eight is your labyrinth. And in order to trace a labyrinth, draw a labyrinth, you have to stop. You have to stop and you have to think. And then you can find your way into the centre of a labyrinth to get your treasure or your ice cream or whatever it is that you've decided is in the middle of it. Teaching this age group is a challenge. And sometimes you can ask yourself, why am I teaching them? So I did ask them when they were sitting down doing their lazy eights and racetracks, we called them. Why are we learning the Alexander technique? And one little girl put her hand up who was so shy and wasn't sure really, whether what she was thinking. And she put her hand up and she said, we're learning it so that we can be tall and soft and not scrunched and tight and make ourselves tired. So, wonderful thing that both Sue and Judith say is to write everything down. So write down things that children say, things that have gone terribly badly wrong, things that have gone brilliantly, crazy ideas which might work, who knows, all really useful to have an armoury of stuff. So games, ideas, images, anything really. It can be a challenge for us to get the teachers involved because of time, because of money. And so one way that I found quite useful for some of the staff at the nursery was to create a Alexander tidying up list, the checklist. And so tidying up time, children who were in charge of tidying up the Lego or the small people, you ask them to stop, remember their magic floaty balloon head and their runny custard shoulders, and then they can pick their toys up. Also another fantastic opportunity to remind them that if they can squat down, they can squat. still thinking about their floaty balloon head and their runny custard shoulders. And then also once everything's been put away, it's another opportunity to just stop, breathe, standing tall and soft, and then they can go out to play or get their coats or go home or whatever. And quite a few staff found this really useful way to start to talk about ideas within the nursery, so that then it slowly could become a language that everybody was speaking, which obviously is amazing. Also very useful for primary school teachers, when it comes to sitting down, to stop before an activity, and to engage in that kind of thinking. One other thing also teaching this age group is the lying down work or quiet time is quite a challenge because children don't want to do that. So finding a good piece of music. By accident I found Keith Jarrett, and this really piqued the children's interest because whether they'd heard music like this or not, there were great pauses in it. And so the children were really waiting and listening to find out what was going to come next. And that's very gentle. Also out of this came a game devised by a child who was quite challenging. And he asked whether we could blow bubbles over them whilst they were lying down. And rather than rushing to pop the bubbles and being all chaotic, they had to wait for the bubbles to come to them. And then they could pop them, or they could just let them land on them and then listen to the pop. You also had to wear goggles so that none of the juice got into the children's eyes, so health and safety. But it was great, and he was super chuffed that he came up with that game. Moments where to take the work into primary school, there's opportunities in year 3 where they learn anatomy. So I was able to go in and teach year 3 anatomy. So we looked at body mapping, we looked at the skeleton, we played games around that, and started to introduce language of being the boss of your body and really working out where you move from. It was lovely. And then also in the curriculum is PSHE, where the children learn about themselves, but also about themselves in relation to everything else. So other people, the world around them. So it's a good opportunity to go to be able to do a session with them, because they're also not very long sessions. So you can introduce mental health into that, and also in my experience, a lot of schools, so the academic learning finishes almost at the beginning of the summer term. And then towards the end of the summer term, teachers have got quite a lot of time where they need to go off and do work, or where they need to find something to do with the children. So this is a great time to say I could come in and do an afternoon's work with them. And if they're very big groups, tell a story. We've got smaller groups, Lazy Eights and Labyrinths are lovely ways in to start to learn a few bits about the technique. So yes, I hope you found this useful, and also cannot express how brilliantly useful this is. Obviously try and do the course as well, because it's incredible. Okay, thank you very much.